the energy was left in the webinar, but are you gonna like restart the batteries? Did you get
you know
full
what they
recharge?
say? You got to leave it all in Bright Talk presenter view. That's what you do.
Leave it all in
You gotta leave it all in presenter view.
Bright Talk.
No, that's the other tab. It's the other side of the tab.
Bright Talk being the worst but most used presenting platform.
I
don't know. I feel like
think
the people that
good.
run webinars
like it.
love Bright Talk, and I hate Bright Talk. Why do you like it? Maybe
well,
I'm too hard
I haven't used. Is that true? It's just of all I haven't used other ones in a long time, so maybe they've gotten better. But I was brought up, so to speak, in the battle days of On24. Did you ever use On24?
Oh yeah,
of course. It was like. It was almost like just a little bit better than doing like a webinar on one of those Tamagotchi things.
Like go-to webinar.
Oh man,
I feel like see that's kind of how I think of Bright Talk today, but maybe I'm being too hard on it.
And I don't, so maybe there probably are more interesting things, but Bright Talk works just fine, right? Like Bright Talk is just like I got no complaints. Now the complaints that I do have. Despite having none of them, and this is pervasive. We talked about this, but it came up again. Is like there maybe in Teams it does this, but there's no online white collar worker thing where you can present and like see the slide notes. And
see, this is one of my complaints about Bright Talk, right? I would agree.
Yeah, and you can't do it in Bright Talk either.
Number one, right? That it doesn't have that. And then two, recording. They always want you to watch the recordings in Bright Talk, which doesn't have like the nice like speed up, double speed. It's just like I don't know. The platform.
Okay. I could see that. I mean, right? I don't. What I do is I don't.
You're
gonna
say because you never watch any webinars.
No.
Well, which is fine. Which is a
fair
would, statement.
That would make. I don't really watch my own webinars.
Right.
So there's that. However. If there is something that I want to watch in Bright Talk, I use Downy to just download the video and then I watch it on my own. So
that's true. Maybe I just need to like I don't. Is that the best one to download? I
think you're right though, Brandon. I think the presenting experience I think is fine. It's good for me, but they could put a lot. I mean, considering what their business is, they could put a lot more effort into like their community or whatever. I mean, it's obviously just like LinkedIn needs to just buy them and kind of fold it into what they do. I mean, wouldn't that be amazing? Just like,
or just throw it in. I mean, that's fine. Or just put it on YouTube, right? I know the whole gate, but it's like they want the gated asset, and it's like you just made it impossible. Like you've made the thing impossible to watch, and so anyway. All right, listen, I have limited time today, so I think we should get going. Are we good?
You're gated.
Topics? I'm gated. I'm gated by the school pickup line.
Yeah.
Are we good with these topics? You guys want to?
I haven't actually read the state of DevOps report.
Oh, something new. Okay. Shocking. I can't believe you didn't go through
I know. I know.
I read the wrong report. Oh no. I read the state of
developer relations. Not as good.
Is that on there
not
too?
Really that interesting. After reading the entire thing, I was like, that's not very.
But let's you've got plenty of stuff. Let's talk about it and then I'll read it later.
All right. Hey man, we're extremely honest, if nothing else. So
I'm gonna put that in our runner-up titles. Let's talk about it, and I'll read it later, and then I'm gonna do, what do you call that? Finger gun.
Yep.
All right. Okay, we have one ad. So
we do. Oh, nice. Teleport.
Okay, they'll be back. So just one break after the cold open, and then we're ready to go.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Oh yeah. Well, I finally went in to get a little pre-op examination for renewing my LASIK. Now, you two are some of the rare people who probably remember when I got LASIK. I mean, maybe you don't remember when, but you remember that I did.
I held your hand, Cote. I was there.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Those were my footsteps in the sand. Oh, wait.
Yeah, that was my hand in yours. Yeah, exactly. Over there, after our friend, the illustrious Matt Kinman, didn't he get LASIK?
Yeah,
he was the first one.
He was excited about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then this was the year that the HSA came out or something around then, and so whatever. Boring story. But I went to go get it, and apparently, I guess this is something I need to start getting used to in the rest of my life. I'm too old. It won't work for me. I don't know why they had to have. Well, they probably did actually need to do some tests to have me come in, but apparently, achieve escape velocity over the old 4-0, there's some muscles in your eyes that mean that you can't focus nearsighted well enough. So if they give you the LASIK, while I would have long vision or whatever that's technically called, it would totally ruin my perfectly good short vision, which, given what I do for my life, would not be great. I would have to be wearing glasses. So the lady, boy, if we had more time, Brandon, I would go over the complete story she told me about her life, which was delightful. It was totally unexpected, but boy, I think, we just started talking and damn, off to the races. It was great.
Well, one, in a future episode, we will hear about that. But two, I just wanted, will they, not to get too in your medical details there, but have you ever been asked or prescribed readers? Are you at that age where, because I've recently gotten to that age where it's basically what you just said, you're the muscle in your eyes a little bit weaker, and so they just do it by age. At 40 it's you get 1.0, at 45 to 50 it's 1.2, and then it goes up. Because I've started to use them on and off of the computer, and I will say I don't have them on right now, but it actually makes a huge difference, unfortunately.
Really?
So,
maybe, it probably is true, but I feel like I can see perfectly fine close up, but maybe I'm just used to it now. I have not been told that, but that is because I have discovered a secret for excellent health, and that is if you don't go to a doctor,
nothing's
you won't
ever
find
wrong.
out that you have anything wrong.
Well, this is something you could do. I will say this is something you can do 100% on your own. It's just sort of what you just said. You're oh, I think I see pretty well, which obviously you're the judge of that, but it's it may be worth if somebody, because you can just buy these glasses at anywhere, for $1 or $2.
Yeah.
And then there's just usually most of the time it's just by age. So you can kind of just be I'm 40. You would really be at the absolute beginning though. I don't know exactly. I can't remember exactly how you're 44. Anyway, you would be at the lowest, and you can put them on, and it's and you'll just know right away. You'll know right away, oh, I was fooling myself. I couldn't really see it, or it doesn't.
Okay, I'll have to do that. And then I can be a great friend of the show, Bart and George, where I'm always rocking 2 pairs of glasses. Switch.
Ooh, I see.
Well, then you get into Matt's world, right? Bifocals. You got that, Matt? You got progressive lenses?
No. So I have computer glasses, for sitting in front of a computer.
I thought you meant a Google Glass.
No, I'm not. That nobody's gonna do that. Is that a spoiler for Google News? No, I have computer glasses that I wear while I sit for my 10+ hours a day in front of this thing, but my far vision has been getting worse, and so I'm going to be getting daily wear glasses for away from the computer. So I'll be pulling the Bart and George where I'm switching glasses.
But what are they
down, and one
prescriptions?
pair.
Are these beyond just the magnification? So there's something. Okay, I was are you?
It's not a heavy prescription. Right. But I realized last time I was at the airport, it's I'm starting to have trouble seeing things far away. I can't read the signs, and so
where do you come down on this blue light filtering thing? That seems to be somewhat controversial.
I don't know. I've got
I don't know either.
Flashing in my face all day long, but I don't have any trouble falling asleep.
Hey, let's keep that out. I would like to put that out to the listeners. The listeners have been doing a lot of work for the show lately. I would like someone come up and find the definitive article on is blue light filtering actually a thing, and do I need to know about it?
I think it's like that brown noise, pink noise kind of thing. It's some people swear by it and other people are meh, and the science is kind of probably, I don't know.
Right. So someone please do the homework and find, because a Google search just reveals 1,000 different articles on both sides. So if someone can find the definitive article, the wire cutter, if you will, of this, we did the research, we did the A/B testing, and here's what you need to know. That would be fantastic.
All right, but my last thing about glasses is I've got a great hack for you. If you do small electronics, or I don't know, anything small where you're up in your face, get yourself some Power 6 reading glasses. You can't see your hand's blurry, if you stick your arm out, but it's awesome if you're working on tiny electronics. So and you can get a pair for $3 of just high crazy power reading glasses. So
That's good to know. That's good. I always wanted to be able to buy from that rotating thing at the Walgreens with the glasses
I
on
think
it.
the ones I bought, like they're like way too powerful for that. They're like, Mr. Magoo, you have to get prescription.
Oh yeah. Well, so that was all to the end of like I think I'm gonna be getting some glasses for the long. I keep wanting to say long term for long vision, whatever that is. Farsighting.
Farsighted, to correct your farsightedness.
And I think just so I can see the movies, or as the she said, the cinema. It's so we should just over in the American world, we should really start saying the cinema instead of movies. Isn't that nicer? Cinema. But this means, I mean, I haven't had glasses since probably like 2005, 2004 maybe. And I don't know. I'm going to be back in the market, and I found a place that I think I can get glasses where you get buy one get two more for free.
Whoa.
Of course. Like I don't know why it's only two. It should be five, right? Like, so I'm thinking I'll get like some glasses that Kim thinks are fine that look good, right? Maybe I'm thinking I don't know what those will be. Maybe I'll get some sunglasses. But then I'm also thinking I'm going to get like the full-on like Dick Cheney glasses. Like, I want like that boomer generation, those thin glasses that are really big. I don't even know how to describe those, but I feel like the first year that I was here in Amsterdam, I went to go get my hair cut at like one of these like, we're cool barber places. And these are I probably mentioned them before. They're the guys who had a location in Ibiza, or however you want to say it. And they had lots of pictures of them on their website hanging out there. And they were like Instagram people. They had like the pomaded hair, and they're all like muscly and stuff. But then the main guy was wearing these Dick Cheney glasses. It was so hilarious. Like
I'm looking at pictures of Dick Cheney. They're nondescript. Like, yeah.
But they're just like the glasses that old guys in suits would wear.
Well, they do look like my dad's glasses. I'll give you that.
See, exactly.
There's nothing.
All right, that's good. That's a good edit point. I'll cut it right there. Do look at like my dad's glasses. All right, good.
Oh,
well,
because I was about to say you need to get yourself some Jeffrey Dahmer glasses, but
yeah, no, like they're the same.
It's crazy.
They're like serial killer glasses. Yeah. His actually look pretty good. It's just funner to say Dick Cheney, but yeah, okay. Jeffrey Dahmer glasses.
Yeah, cut all the Dahmer stuff.
Yeah, that will not make it in. Well, I'll cut it right at the. I'll cut it right at.
Well, they had there's that movie with the Scarlet Witch's brother in it.
Wow,
isn't that who she is?
That's a deep cut.
Yeah, she's it's Wanda. With Wanda's.
Yeah. Now, which brother is it? The Marvel brother,
the original,
the Fox brother.
The I don't know, the one who moves fast.
No, I'm saying that two different actors played him.
Oh, I think it's the original one. Isn't it the original?
This is the only part in the podcast my kids care about.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I think it's the one that was in the TV show, if I remember.
But that was like the spoiler was he was brought from the Fox series, not the Marvel series.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
and that's how you knew it was like a messed up multiverse.
Oh yeah.
See, you got to spend more time with your kids, Cote, or maybe they're too young for Marvel.
Well, we did watch Nightmare Before Christmas again tonight, and then Curious George Halloween with no noggin.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
All right.
Brandon's gotta go.
She-Hulk.
Serial killer glasses. That's what I want.
You look good in those. You really will.
Yeah.
So. All right. Whenever you're ready.
All right.
What are we talking about next? Or I guess surprise me.
Okay. Well, you'll find out soon, anyways.
Talk about it. I'll read it later.
All right. Well, I don't think for our, we try to talk very specifically just about enterprise infrastructure news on this show. So it's not really that big of a deal for what we care about Google shutting down its gaming thing, Stadia. I think there was some good coverage on one of the ever-growing, Ben Thompson podcast, Multiverse World, talking a lot about that somewhere. That was interesting. But it did, for some reason, it kind of brought up an older screenshot of some Reddit or Hacker News thing where some people, some Googlers, I think were positing that at Google, you get rewarded for launching things. not necessarily running them and having them be successful. Now, I don't know if that's the case. It's just some stuff from the internet. People saying
I don't know.
it's true.
I did think though, Cote, I thought like the fact that the threads seemed pretty authentic, and the fact that
yes,
they sort of had this like internal, like, I don't know, under the radar acronym that called like launch, promo, abandon. So they called it the LPA cycle. So the fact that like somebody came up with that and said it was kind of widely discussed inside of Google that like, well, to get promoted, you have to launch something big. And then, you know, as the article went on to say, it was like, okay, so basically you do the launch, you get some promotions, and then those people generally move on. And I was like, you know, I was thinking to myself, it's like, well, one, this is like a pretty reasonable explanation about like why Google does seem to like do these big launches that then quietly, or not so quietly, you know, get abandoned or, you know, kind of end of life, like, you know, Stadia most recently. But then I got my thinking more broadly about this, and somewhat related to GCP as well. It's like, is this a feature? If you're the management of Google, is this like a feature or a bug, right? Because it's sort of like, if you are Google and you're looking to, you know, all that really matters to your earnings are giant businesses that throw off billions of dollars, right? So the incentives are to launch really big things in hopes that they generate billions of dollars. And if they don't, like that, you know, it's kind of like it doesn't matter. You might as well abandon it. And maybe this explains like Google Reader. It's like Google Reader was a success in the sense of like many of us liked it, but there was no path forward for it to make billions of dollars. Like there just wasn't, at least that we would all know of, right? It's like, and so I don't know. So it's kind of, as I thought, as I was the CEO of Google, like and clearly he must read the internet and know all about this. Like he clearly must, I would hope he'd be aware of this. Like, okay, well, this is what people are doing. They're launching, getting promotions and moving on. Clearly the management of Google could change the incentives, but like, maybe this is what they want, because like maybe it's only 1 in 100 projects that hit, like Gmail, is that's what they really care about. They don't care about things that are just moderately successful. So I don't know, Matt, what's your take? Feature or bug?
I think it's a bug. I think this is Google getting bit in the fact that they let things stay beta for so long. And, you know, so you brought up Gmail, you know, wasn't Gmail like famously beta for like the first 10 years of its life?
A long time, for sure.
Right. And so people are launching products and features that don't get adoption, don't get traction. And, you know, and then are confident to walk away from them and shut them down. I mean, yes, you want to have something that incentivizes new projects, but maybe people just don't have enough like skin in the game. I mean, when you look at things like Cisco and they're rolling, you know, their spin out, spin ins, you know, undoubtedly they have a bunch of spin outs that were not acquired, right? You know, so they're actually putting that project, that, you know, that moonshot on an island to you know, sink or swim by itself. Meanwhile, you know, Stadia and you know, obviously countless other examples, you know, the financials didn't make sense. They weren't self-supporting, and they probably, if they were, you know, not from Google, wouldn't have gotten funded, right? So maybe this is, you know, hey, why don't instead of like pulling a bunch of valuable resources from Google to do something that's not Google's core functionality, you get those guys out of the company and give them some seed money, but try to make them be a little more self-sufficient, because yeah, it's resume driven development, and, you know, killed by Google, you know, so wins again.
Kind of what you're like proposing there would be sort of like a way to change the incentives would be like sort of like, okay, well, if someone's, you know, at that point where they're seeking a promotion, is like, instead of giving a promotion, give them some funding, right, to go start their own company and say, okay, go do it. And, you know, Google could be an investor. And then, you know, if it does, you know, to your point, like the incentives would be like, they have to basically, you know, they're not just looking for like a promotion and a payday that they can then move on. It's like, no, the only way it gets successful is if the company's successful. So that would be sort of like a different, I guess the incentives could kind of be the same, but like it would definitely be a different structure. So I don't know, that'd be kind of interesting. It'd be interesting for them to kind of like almost like force you out. The only way to get promoted is to go out and build something separately and then coming back in through acquisition. I don't know, Cote, what are your thoughts?
Nobody was going to acquire Stadia, right?
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Cote? Is this a feature, a bug? Like, what do you think should happen here?
Well, I think this is like this is very close to a near perfect Brandon issue here, because I think you know, as you said, you got some unmasking to do, or is it a lot of human psychology and things working here. I mean, I think well, one, I mean, yeah. I mean, this is my always my not complaint, but bias I'm trying to like load into my perusing innovations in the tech world is, yeah, sure. I mean, it's all like Silicon Valley, Bay Area stuff where like the dominant thing in the tech world is to like make it big, like come up with something and launch it and like, you know, drive up valuation. There's what I'm searching for is like the from a business standpoint, the way tech company people think is like valuation, not cash flow, and not like, you know, the revenue that they have. So I think well, maybe it's not obvious, but like at a company like Google, I could totally see how that mentality, because of who they are and where it comes from and the people that work there, that would pervade, where like going big and like getting momentum is like the most valuable thing. And I mean, it's literally like they are of the generation of companies that I don't think it was joking to say like, we'll figure out making money later. Like when they did something initially. And so it's like, you know, it makes sense. It doesn't have to be that way. Other companies do seem to care about revenue a great deal. And you know, the other side of that is it makes me wonder, like, I wonder how difficult or easy it is to attribute revenue and profit at Google to what any given programmer does. Like,
undoubtedly. Yeah.
You would think it was easy, but like, is it? Like if you like, their stuff is so good that in aggregate for any given team, like, is it easy to say like, oh, we added in this feature and then that brought in $5 million yesterday?
Like what moves the needle for Gmail? Nothing.
Right. And even for search, like, I mean, I guess search, you could introduce new features and you would measure it either based on stickiness and the time that someone spent in there, with the assumption that the longer they spend in, just like gambling, eventually they'll click on something. Or you could, I mean, there's plenty of opportunity for actual trackable things in the way that ads are displayed and when they're shown. But there's a lot of other stuff where, to your point, Matt, it's just sort of like, I don't know, if they implement like some new way of highlighting text in Google Docs, who knows if that's anything, right? And so if you have like this loose connection between the developer or a product person's work and revenue that comes in or doesn't come in, and then you're already set up to really just care about launching stuff, like, I don't know, it seems easy to exist in that kind of thinking.
I mean, one of the complaints from, you know, that the CEO has recently surfaced is that people seem to be coasting at Google, right? They're taking it easy. They've put in their hard work and now they're at Google and, you know, they can rest on their laurels. It's like, if you've got these crazy moonshot ideas, why don't you force them out of the company into a startup where they don't have the protective umbrella of, you know, the money fountain search engine. Mm-hmm. And you're like, look, you have to come up with an idea. We'll fund your project. You know, we'll fund you, but, you know, no free lunches, you know, no dry cleaning, you know, no, haircuts on site, no massage, but, you know, and you're not going to get your Google stock. You'll get stock, you'll get, 2 orders of magnitude more stock in your startup. You know, you have a lot more skin in the game, but it's funded. You know, how do you like that? And of course, you know, Google will take, 75% of whatever it comes out. But, you know, that puts a lot more incentive on launching a viable product.
Right. But it is interesting. Like, I guess if you kind of go back to like, well, what then does the Google management want? Like, so for the people that are working at Google, how do they want to incent them, right? So if you're saying, and I kind of get what you're saying, but it is one of those things that it would definitely be the quote unquote double-edged sword. It's like, if someone is willing to be like, I'm going to leave, they may, and they have an idea they want to go work on, they may also say, listen, I'm going to go raise money at better terms outside of Google, you know what I mean? My own way. And Google loses control of that. And then, maybe the next big idea, Google doesn't have a say in, which is fine. Right. So I think you're always kind of back to the quandary of like, okay, if you're the management of Google, right, and I want to give some level of incentives to the company, right? Like, here's how you get promoted, right? Like, or here's the path forward. Like, what's the guidance you would give them? If you've decided to stay, like, it could be, you could turn the whole thing on its head. It's like, well, to what you're saying before, Cote, because I think, we know, for at least from outside, that Google believes in OKRs, and they kind of they seem to post the objectives very clearly, or try to, for each employee. And so like maybe that's what it is. It's like, no, we really want to double down on sustaining features that like slowly, incrementally improve Google Search, YouTube, Gmail, kind of the big franchises, right? And that, those can be measured pretty accurately. Now that would sort of like say to the company a little bit is like, we think we can get more out of our biggest franchises, but maybe that's where more of the focus should be rather than some of these moonshots.
So, and the part that makes this a good Brandon issue is, well, one, of course, you want people trying to do new things and launching and innovating, right? Like, it would not be the case where we were like, yeah, they shouldn't do that launch thing. Like, we don't want them ever coming up with new stuff. Like, no, very few companies, you would want to, or organizations, you don't want them to like not do new things, right? So you want the launching and the doing stuff, but you also want, to use the example, you don't want like a bunch of like 20 different messaging things. You want some follow through and like continual improvement. And, it should also be noticed, Apple falls into this trap a lot where they seem to get very excited about something and launch it. And then, nothing happens for years, right? if not longer. So it's not, Apple does this as well. And maybe I wonder, they might have the same sort of syndrome. But the thing related to this is, and this is what I was thinking about in this area early this week is, and this is the thing I think you need to make a ruling on, Brandon, is we like to celebrate the idea of like, you should try things out and innovate. And Thomas Edison like failed 99 times, like that billboard says, before he invented the light bulb. So really in business, you've got to experiment and do things, and it's not always going to work out. And I feel like, yeah, no one fucking believes that. Basically, if you fail at anything, you're toast. So don't fail in public. There's no failing right. Is not no. Now, failing in public and knowing that you had failed, that's cool internally, maybe. But once like people outside of your little circle of trust learn about it, it's deadly. And so like
tell that to the WeWork founder.
That's right, exactly. And so we need to it's almost like maybe we need to close the book on this whole like you should like feel free to like try things and fail at it because you're learning and trying things. And there's a dark path you could go down with that line of thinking. But it's related to this because it's sort of like, yeah, it's fine to like launch a bunch of things and try them out. But like you also need that like follow through to like sustain it and run it. And then finally, right, like this is an example itself as like, well, Google tried to be in the gaming business and now here we are kind of making fun of them, but they tried, right? And so it's like, you can't really, like if you try something like this and it doesn't work out, then like even us, like deep in the tech world of this kind of mentality, you're kind of like, ha. So like, it's I don't know if I've really ever encountered people who are like, boy, they sure did try and it didn't work out. Give them an award.
Yeah.
Right? Like
no,
I
think you're right.
For that.
And I don't know, Amazon does the same thing, right? They sort of like, they often talk about praising like the Fire Phone and other, things that didn't go well. But I do think, I guess I kind of come back to looking at the company from the outside and seeing where they have been successful and saying like, why not stay closer to what you probably perceive as a little bit boring, but something that they really know well? And I'll just give an example, like having read that YouTube book I mentioned a few times, it's like, Google wasn't really capable of figuring out like how to get a big community around videos. And if you read that book, they talk a lot about how Google video sort of failed. But once YouTube was inside, right? And you can say the same thing about Facebook. Once Instagram was inside, the company is sort of geared around optimizing kind of this whole system to make more money. Yeah. And they figured out how to do it. So what I would say to Google is like, hey, there's a whole bunch of problems out there. Like, and I'll just give one, like, job search, right? Like Indeed is, probably one of the most popular, if not one of the biggest job search companies. And I've always thought to myself, like, why doesn't Google, they could either buy Indeed or they could like really go out and be like, we're going to actually sit down and make job search even better than it's ever been before. Right. And, that's has a very similar kind of model to the things that they've created. And of course, you've got like a lot of different, travel search, and you've got, Airbnb and a lot of marketplaces. And like, we talk about Wirecutter and we talk about product reviews. Like some of these things kind of exist within Google. None of them like stand out as like if I asked you where you're going to search for a job or a job site, like you may say Google, but you kind of like, that would probably lead you to like a job specific search engine. And it's like, Google seems like they'd be good at like, hey, some of these things are pretty big businesses, but they haven't figured out exactly how to optimize it. And if you will, kind of like we think about enterprise sales, like if we tuck in this acquisition and we put it through a big company sales machine, we can make a lot more money. And I think those aren't like moonshots, but like I actually think, like Google could come in and probably make job search a lot better and make a lot of money. And why not promote someone for sort of like taking over the job search and like optimizing and making a ton of money rather than like build the next electric car, which is something that's just outside of, their core business. So that's what I would maybe, if I was sort of sitting in the room, I'd be like, why don't we try a few of these? Why don't we try a couple acquisitions that we think are really close to what we do well and do it a lot better?
Yeah, like I nowadays, it's I don't know how I found out about this, but I use the old flights.google.com when I'm searching for trips, and then I'll go over to Concur and look at it, and it's like, it's fantastic, but it's just sort of like there, right? Like,
what you're saying, I think it's perfect.
Kind of like Google Voice.
It's kind of like hidden. Like I agree with you. It's like flights on Google is awesome, but it's like, it's almost this afterthought, right? That you kind of like, Absolutely. Oh, it's almost like a secret or a tip you give out versus like,
exactly.
Of course I go to flights.google for all of my travel needs. Or of course, and same thing with jobs. There is a place you can search for them, but it's like, no, I just go to this website. It's all it is for jobs. And it's like, oh, and then if I'm like posting a job, it's like, of course I posted on the Google job board. And that's the only, and so it seems obvious to me, right? Like, hey, these are areas that aren't moonshots, but they're like really good sustaining businesses that I think would probably make Google more money in the long run. And then the other thing I would just say is like, I do think the burden they're putting on people to come up with like, you need to launch a $10 billion business. This is what leads people to just take on stuff like Stadia or healthcare. It's like, because if you're just sitting there with a white sheet of paper, you're like, well, let's just look at big industries. I guess, and it's like, well, video games are huge. Let's try that. And it's like, you don't really have any new insight. You know what I mean? It's like, maybe let people try some small stuff, knowing that it could blossom into much bigger versus someone walking in and just sort of like let Google Reader go. Like, just keep it going. Like, you never know what it's going to happen if it has a base of users that really like it versus like, and I think that's why we're so hard on Stadia. At least I am, it's like, we kind of knew at the beginning this was never going to work, right? It has such a low probability and so much money. It's like, why not do something different? And, so we're proven right here.
Well,
but who knows?
But then you're that engineer on Google Flights who's like, his manager's like, you're not moving the needle on the stock price, right? I mean, how do you show any sort of return on, something that's been there for 15 years that, I mean, and I'm sure, that engineering team's like, oh yeah, we have a backlog. We have things that our features need to, we have features that need to get done, and the rest of us are like, it's still there.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they must have ads there. I'm guessing like the ad blockers I use just make it so I don't see them. But like, it would. I would love to be able to just do all my corporate travel planning through Google Flights. It's so much nicer. Now, I don't know if this metaphor works, but I think maybe that's the problem with the moonshot is like it's a big deal and it's fun to like get to the moon, but the way you're going to make money is to like strip mine the moon. And that takes a lot of just like lengthy.
Well, and that's why you buy somebody who's already on the moon, right?
Yeah, there you go. So Google, maybe they were really good at strip mining that one market, and they're finding their way into more strip mining. Or maybe is it ESG? They're doing ESG sort of mining. Everything's cool, not just pulling it up from the ground. Now, also the speaking of highly related, I often wonder. Speaking of tracking revenue, how Dora revenue fits into Google, because Google still owns them as far as I understand. So clearly, it's a genuine service on its own, so to speak. But there must be some. I hope they're getting some marketing value out of it, like with all that lead genning and stuff. But the new DevOps report is out now. As I was being honest about, I haven't had a chance to read it in depth, but I thought we should still talk about it. because I know that at least Brandon has looked over it. What's like the I feel like maybe for the last few years there hasn't been like a major thing in each DevOps report. The last major thing I remember reading is that centers of excellence don't work really well, and that the best thing to do is have bottoms-up seeding of developers or staff that move around to spread knowledge of how to do DevOps. When you're trying to scale up and educate more people in your DevOps organization. But this year, what's standing out to you, Brandon? What is like eyebrow raiser?
Well, the thing they say, like right at the beginning of the report this year, is that they say that they spent a lot more time basically digging deeper on the software supply chain security. So it's really one of the primary themes. So probably the biggest change is, suddenly, and I guess we all know why after the SolarWinds and other things, it's like there's a whole new focus on asking questions about like how secure is your software delivery pipeline, and then more importantly, like what are you doing and how big of a priority of that. And so not surprisingly, right, I think it's sort of like the answer is sort of kind of are obvious. It's like everyone now thinks it's important. And then if you kind of go through the survey, people are at varying degrees of actually doing something, right? So there's all the way from just starting out to people who've like implemented, all types of security practices and things like that. So that's probably the biggest thing. If you were just like, what changed this year is the focus on security. And that seems to be what everyone's, kind of working on.
Yeah.
I mean, I do like the best thing about this is for those of us who have read it year after year is they just have a section surprises. It's like, oh, thank you for not hiding that as something to suss out in the conclusions. I mean, and the surprises are really just pointing out things we kind of knew about. Like the first one is trunk-based development works better than a lot of the alternatives, and it's like, yeah, we kind of sorted that out by now. And, but for some folks, maybe starting with surprises is the place to start.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that these reports kind of always kind of come back to is, and I feel like sometimes like DevOps is just a shorthand for like better management. Better management leads to better results, right? And then like this year's was, quote, high trust, low blame cultures focused on performances were 1.6 times more likely to have above average adoption of like security products and things like that. So, I mean, I guess you can almost say this about Agile and DevOps. Some of it is just shorthand encoded in software methodology to say like better management leads to better results. Like I just always, every time I'm reading these reports, I always see stuff like high trust is better. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't think of a time where someone's written like this low trust, high blame culture is really, helping us out. Right. So you're always seeing that kind of thing through all of these reports. I don't know if that's good or it's bad, or if it's just, maybe it's the fact that it's said a different way is helpful to people, but it is sort of, a lot of it to me is sort of just the most obvious statement of like, be better at management and you will have better results.
That raises a good question of like who, and I don't mean to turn this into a bagging on the DevOps report thing, which is not my intention at all, but like, who do you think this report is for at this time in its life? Like who, and by what do I mean by who it's for? Like who do you think reads it and is either A, educated about something they don't know already, or two, are like kind of inspired to not only do something, but like know what they're doing, right? To your point, Brandon, it's sort of like, well, I guess I should stop yelling at people, right? Like it's probably not like, oh, I thought it would be great to be a pathological organization where I don't trust anyone. Like,
right.
Like I don't think you probably are not going to get this PDF and read it if you're, I don't even know if that kind of person exists, right?
They do. That's the sad thing is, year after year, it's still people saying like, oh yeah, I mean, you go to DevOps days and there's still new people, right? It's,
right. Okay.
We are in a bubble, right? We've lived in this bubble where like we've built it out, we've refinished it. Our bubble, like it's pretty firm, but there's still a lot of people outside who, they've been doing operations and
That's
IT
fair.
for years, and some of the stuff, and it's always good to have a refresher, right? A
Totally.
reminder for people who are like, yeah, I read that last year, and I thought, oh, we should do some of this, and we kind of fell off the wagon. We're still, still aspirational, but we still got a lot of work.
So,
right?
so it feels like, because like I guess there are people, and I'm sure we were all like this, where you read the they're always going to have that Westrum or Westeros or whatever thing in there of the 3 column, and I suppose there are still plenty of people born every day who haven't seen the Flintstones, so to speak, and they read that and they're like, wow, I never thought about it like this, and then they can kind of use that to self-identify what's going on in their organization, and then it's almost the thing of like, if you point out that there's a system or a model, people who are in it maybe don't realize it. And once they realize that it's a system, they can start to improve it if they want to. So you still have that kind of audience out there.
Well, I think we could throw out like a straw person as an example of like maybe someone at a high level that could read it. Would be somebody like, take the CEO of Goldman Sachs, right? That person is probably risen to that position because they're like really good at selling. They know a lot about financial modeling. They know a lot about how you take a new college graduate, turn them into an investment banker, and an investment banker into a partner, right? And they also know that they're spending an incredible amount of money on information technology, right? And that person's probably frustrated. They're like, gosh, the bill for IT is just, it's just astronomical. It's getting bigger and bigger, and I don't feel like I'm getting the right return. So maybe that's the person that grabs this and says, okay, like, well, let me look at this. Like, what are other people doing in IT that are getting maybe more out of their IT group than we are here at like said financial bank, right? And then because that's a culture, like, an investment banking culture. Like, I don't know if anyone I don't know if investment banking culture would be described as high trust, low blame, right? Like, it doesn't feel like that's the way it would be described. It would be described as probably like high pressure, high reward with like a lot of accountability, right? So someone reading this, I don't know. I haven't really worked in investment banking, but I just outsider perspective, right? So maybe that is, someone that's trying to build an IT is to say like, well, when I'm trying to create a high performance IT culture, these are, at least, if nothing else, it's what other people are saying that works, right? Now they could decide that does or does not work, but probably if they read this report coupled with their own firsthand experience of frustration of not getting more out of IT, they may be more open to it, right? Versus like, I'm just going to run this like I run everything else. I'm going to, what I mean? Like 80-hour weeks, everybody's available on Sunday.
He's like, not going to do that. These guys, get your act together. But
even if they don't, right? Even if they don't, like, at least knowing what they're competing against, right? So that way, when the investment banker is like, I don't understand why these companies out in California like have free lunches and like, they have like more reasonable working hours, and that there's a lot more vocal feedback. Like, it at least gives them a point of reference to be like, okay, well, this is a really different IT and building custom applications, and it has a different culture than investment banking, right? Just like if you took an investment banker and you said, okay, run the software team, right? Like, if you just did that, I don't think it would go well. And I don't think putting the software product manager in front of the portfolio, running the stocks and picking the stocks, I don't think that would go well either. So maybe it's just some acknowledgement of like, there are different cultures we need to be aware of.
That's where you're wrong. Anyone from software thinks they can do anything.
Now that is true. But they would bring in like the whole new way of doing it and like probably get fired really fast.
They would try to reinvent what's worked for,
Oh yeah, they would be like, that's funny.
That's exactly what we were recommending Google does earlier, right? It's just go into other industries and take your programmer mentality to optimize things. Take an engineering thing. Now, notably, I think if one of I wouldn't say my favorite books, but one of the books I enjoyed reading the most over the years is Lords of Strategy. And what you find out is that most of the management consulting firms were either founded by or heavily influenced by engineers, people who are trained as engineers, which, if you think about it, makes a lot of sense with the systems that they built. Now, finally, before we wrap up, it looks like Elon Musk is going to buy Twitter. I just want to get some quick. Speaking of the generative, warm and fuzzy culture of investment banking, I think we got a good view into all sides of the iBanking process and management process with some of the things that are there. And do you think now? I'm not going to hold anyone's feet to the fire, I guess that's a torture reference now that I think about it. I should probably stop using that, because the held to part is fine. If your feet are cold, it's nice to have your feet next to a fire, but you want to be able to move them when possible. But
Yes.
Matt Ray, do you think this is actually going to go through? Is Matt Levine finally going to have to find something new to write about?
Ooh. Wow. I still I'm still 50-50 on it going through.
That's pretty good.
I mean, some of his like financiers have pulled out, but he's on the hook for a big penalty if he doesn't.
Yeah.
Right.
How about you, Brandon? What's it going to be?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's so much written about it that I struggle to add anything more interesting in the conversation that hasn't been written about a million times. But the part that I thought was interesting about the entire exchange was, if anyone listening to this, if you've ever felt like imposter syndrome, or like you've just felt like, man, the people that are really successful know a lot more about everything than me, then take a few minutes to read through Elon Musk's text messages, right? Because it's like fantastic. It's just like, these are the most normal people of all time. And it's just crazy. It's just like he's texting with Larry Ellison, like, hey, like, I think you should get in. Larry's like, I don't know, $1 billion. And Elon's like, I think 2 billion. But it's just like the most casual exchange, right? And then he's got all of these like pretty well-known VCs or investors like pitching them like what I think are just like the most crazy, stupid ideas of all time. And they're just like, we could do like the Bitcoin payment. And it's just like, so it just reminds me, I shouldn't say stupid, because it's more like, it just reminds me of like being at a social event with like people in our peer group, where people are just like talking about crazy ideas. Some of them are good, some of them are crazy, some people you think are really funny, and it's just like, wow, it was just very relatable. And I thought to myself, especially if you've ever either helped someone get a promotion or try to get your own promotion, where it's like now you have to like, document and triplicate like everything that you possibly did, and how everything that you did helped the company to make more money just to get like a fairly modest raise. And then here you have like Elon Musk is just like raising billions of dollars through text messaging. And I thought to myself, like, we should all be more like Elon, where it's like, no, like, let's just stop with the craziness. Stop with the 50-page promotion pack and be like, Cote, I think you've done a good job. I think everything's good. I'm just, you know what? I'm going to give you, I'm giving you the 7% raise. We're done.
Yeah. It would save a lot of time for something. No, but it would
save so much time. And it's like, if they can do this at like this level, like, or even simpler, it's like, Cote, I trust you. Just go to the conference, come back, and just tell me how much money you spent. That's all I need, and I'll just give it to you. Right. And it's like, let's just do that. It'd be so much easier. So part of me was like, sure, this is crazy, but could we all just be a little bit more relaxed like Elon? And just
There's a lot we're learning in this episode about business.
Lots of learnings.
Life. Now, speaking of telling you how much I spent at a conference, there's several of them coming up. Now, Matt Ray, the one that everyone's been waiting for, October 13th, it's coming up. You're going to be at the Sydney Cloud FinOps meetup. I've seen you here and there talking about working on your talk. I hope there's a recording, because I'm going to want to see it. At least maybe you can send me the slides. And I can look through those, through the collection. And then also, KubeCon North America is in Detroit. Everyone wants to go to Detroit. October 24th to 28th, Matt Ray will be there. We're a media sponsor. Always love that. And I was reminded that they're having one in Amsterdam in March, maybe? So I should probably go to that one. I need to find out what's happening. And then we have Spring One platform coming up December 6th to 8th in San Francisco. We have a lot of the content posted there. The drill. There's developer stuff, operations things, even a little bit of digital transformation. But if you can use a code that is COTE200 to get $200 off registration. And there's a couple of other things to pay attention to. But if you go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/380, you can see those conferences and all sorts of other things, including that discount code. Do we have any bureaucracy to go over, Brandon?
We do. This week, I sent stickers to Cody in Maryland, Leo in London, and Paul in Indiana. And if you would like a sticker for your laptop, or really for anything, just email your postal address to stickers@softwaredefinedtalk.com, and I will be happy to send you a sticker anywhere in the world. Also, we occasionally get questions, and I just thought I'd throw this out there as well. Like, if you have any type of questions or feedback on the show, a lot of people put it in Slack, which you can sign up for, but you can also just send us an email at questions@softwaredefinedtalk.com. And, we'll pretty much answer almost anything. So, send it your way. Any feedback, any concerns, any comments, we're always looking for that. And then also got a few comments that a few people discovered the YouTube channel that we've been using. So check that out. I think if you're interested, all of these episodes are published on YouTube. The link will be right at the top of the show notes. So if you want to watch the pre-show, the after show, or Matt talking about weird things during the ad breaks, you should watch YouTube. You should watch the YouTube channel. So check all of that out.
It's like one of those podcasts where you have to pay a Patreon to get the bonus content, except you don't have to pay. And you get to see us doing it. It's wonderful. You check that. You could like and subscribe and all your smashes and stuff.
Ring that bell.
Well, what do you have to recommend this episode, Matt Ray?
Oh, see, Brandon was setting me up for talking about my weird thing. My weird thing is it finally showed up. I didn't want to talk about it. My keyboard 100, my Model 100 from keyboard.io. I did the Kickstarter 2 years ago, something like that. And it was supposed to ship in January and October. The keycap showed up 3 weeks ago, but the keyboard finally got through customs and I got it. So I got myself one of those fancy split keyboards that it's got like all programmable crazy buttons and LEDs and supposed to improve my typing and help me become like uber efficient.
You're going to revolutionize the video game industry after that.
I don't know if it's for video game. It's for like, hardcore typists who, spend all day typing away, and it's my hands are cramping. I'm not used to it. I've been doing like, a typing website to practice my typing to get better at it. I'm having to learn all new things.
Yeah. I like the idea of someone in Australian customs like getting this, looking at it and being like, fuck me if I know how to value this thing. But with a great Australian accent. Well, how about yourself, Brandon? What do you have to recommend?
Well, I'm still taking in that keyboard. That reminds me of the one no SSHJJ is using. So I don't know. More power to you guys. My muscle memory is such that I can't learn a new keyboard. I will forever be a straight QWERTY, straight flatline keyboard. But my recommendation this week is, I guess, two things. It's a podcast I listened to, and the episode was why the voice inside your head can sound like a jerk. So if you're interested in kind of like the inner voice and like how it all works, there was this episode of one of the Ringer podcasts called Plain English that I like. But it was good. It was really interesting. And so the professor on there kind of gives you a bunch of tips about like if you feel like maybe your inner voice is like working against you, like you're sort of gives you some tips on like how to control that. And even he's written a book and stuff like that. But more importantly, he has a cheat sheet. So if you didn't want to listen to the podcast, you can just link to the PDF here. It's just like 10 tips, right? Like if you feel like your self-talk is getting you a little bit down. So I'll just give out one. You can look at the rest of them yourself. It's like one is like, if you find yourself like really frustrated and you're using like in your mind, you're saying like, I am so stupid because I made mistake XYZ. One tip he gives you is just flip the pronouns you use. So instead of using the first person, just use the third person or the second person. Be like, and then just kind of speak to yourself as like another person. Be like, oh, Brandon, you made a mistake, but it's not that bad. It'll go well. And so he just says and he gives you some reasons why. So basically the human mind's like really good at switching between persons. And it's a way that your internal wiring will just kind of like help you think more clearly. So if you want to read the rest of the tips, you can read the PDF. If you want to listen to the whole podcast, it was really good. It's kind of interesting. So if you find yourself thinking about like self-talk or your inner voice, which I'm like perpetually interested in, it's kind of insightful. So check all that out.
Hopefully interested in getting to be more positive, not just interested in from an academic standpoint. Well, whatever.
That's what the tool. I guess I should have said that. That's what the tools are, right? How to get yourself out of a rut of bad thinking and maybe into a better way of thinking.
Quiet down the garbage voices. That's what I was saying. Well, I have a recommendation and then a little defaults lifestyle further chapter in that story. One. We were just using this tonight with our pizza. Kim got this for me. Now, I want to recommend just the classic microplane. Now, a microplane is like a cheese grater, but it's this long stick, and it has it must be patented because I think there's only one company that makes it. And you can zest a lemon with it, which is fine, But really what it's good at is you get yourself a block of fresh, as we would say in America, Parmesan, which is actually like 5 different types of cheeses. We just use that as a label for all of it. But the kind of stuff you would put on pasta or pizza, and you can use this microplane, and it has perfectly like hair, paper thin slices of grates of cheese that come out. We use it all the time for that. So that's definitely something you need in your kitchen, to have a microplane. Now, you're going to be upset to hear this, Brandon, but this week, my Apple defaults lifestyle is I'm experimenting with using the calendars in iCloud. I moved our family calendar into iCloud, which is nice because it shares with the family, right? And I've even moved my personal calendar. Moved is a loose word here. But now I'm using, instead of my Gmail calendar, I'm using this calendar, which means the invite you sent me for this podcast is all screwed up. And once that happened, I was kind of like, oh, maybe this isn't a good idea.
Yeah.
Like, it's one thing to be your family's calendar, right? Because the truth about my family's calendar is, even though it was literally Kim's calendar shared to me because that was the easiest for her to use, I'm the only one who ever used it. Yep. So migrating for a team of 1 is easy, but I don't know. I think I might encounter some difficulties here.
If you're not using it with email, it seems like the migration should be okay.
Well, the problem is, like, I think Brandon is the only one who has something on my personal calendar that isn't from me, is that now I've got to go to Brandon and be like, hey, could you send me an invite to this new email address? Or I guess I can download the .cal file from Gmail to like whatever. But like now, whenever Brandon wants to update this thing, he's going to send it to my Gmail address, which is not going to appear in my wherever. I've lost track. But I think this is a feature of fixing calendaring we haven't considered. This feels like a very Web 0.0, like Dave Weiner sort of situation. Is like, we need to have indie calendaring so that if I migrate, if I move my calendar from one service to another, I don't lose service because I'm not tied to it. And so maybe Mastodon can get into that. So maybe.
Hey, bring back Chandler.
Yeah.
We talked about it a while back, Zoom, right? Like I think we were generally down on the idea of Zoom doing calendaring, but like, yeah, if you can somehow bring to the table some like network-based new way of doing calendaring that like is sort of simplifies all of this, we're all in favor of it. It just feels like, back to like a moonshot.
Like single sign-on for calendaring.
Yeah, it feels like back to like Google, even like talk about a moonshot. Like, I don't know, can anyone fix this once and for all? But
can anyone make money with it?
Do it. So, all right. Well, Coach, I was gonna say, I don't know. In my household, like the default lifestyle, and I guess this may be cheating. It's just like we just use Google Calendar. That's everyone has got one. We don't.
We've got a dozen calendars.
Yeah, we don't use the iCal. We don't use, like, Apple seemed to just give up on iCal, and so did we. So I don't know if that's a solution.
Well, step one after this is to get people to use the calendar. That is going to become the critical defining factor of becoming a highly successful organization and to stop being pathological.
Now, did you get all your kids' Gmail accounts like before they were allowed to sign up? So like, when they were 2, they're like, you got the right name at Gmail?
Of course. All right. Well, this has been Software Defined Talk. If you want to get the show notes for this episode, you can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com/380. 380. With those of you can also see how to join our Slack channel, all sorts of things like that. We send out a newsletter if you want to subscribe to that. I have a newsletter that I write in a lot now. If you go to cote.io/newsletter, I think you can also go to cote.report. As Matt Ray knows, I don't fucking like DNS and setting things up. I would just like to say, when someone types this in, I want like the Cloud Foundry thing. When someone types this in, make them go to this website. I do not care how.
Single-handedly supporting the DNS industry.
But DNS is like CNAME, A record, TXT, wildcard, and I'm just like, I don't want to have to like.
Yeah, you can't remember how to get somewhere, so you buy another domain.
Anyways, I think if you go to cote.report, you can sign up for my lovely newsletter, which I think is doing quite well. And with that, we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, thanks, Cote. Thanks for bringing it in on time there. I did enjoy it. I do, I like how we ended on one of the true Cote contradictions. Like, I hate DNS, but I've never seen a domain name that I'm not willing to buy. So it's like, I mean, it's just the most perfect. That is the quintessential Coteism. So, all right, well, I got to run today. So thanks for everyone on the stream. It was good catching up with everyone, and hopefully we'll see you here, I don't know, next week or thereabouts. Take care.
Yeah. Bye.